Okay. Recording.
We're
Hola.
recording. How's it going?
Okay, happy weekend.
Yes.
Happy Sunday.
So after the last video where we announced that our bearing 75 has become a bearing 82, we got so many comments talking about how that affects our cost, how stupid that is because it's going to be so much more expensive for us, how we better get ready because now the boat is over 24 meters and the regulations is completely different. There were so many completely mixed, conflicted, some educated, some not well educated comments that we just felt like it's best to actually explain. We did not realize how many of our viewers are actually confused on the LOA, which is length overall, versus GT, which is gross tonnage, versus the model of the boat.
The model name.
Yeah, so we're gonna start and one by one, we're just gonna break it down. We're gonna make it very simple. It seemed like there was a lot of you were very interested in this subject. We didn't think you were. So here we go. First of all, where do we start?
Where do we start? Well, we explained already why the model was renamed. So
Which
that's.
I felt like was a little bit misunderstood.
Was it?
Yes,
Okay.
because I think some people thought the model got bigger. It did not
No,
get
it
bigger.
didn't.
So a lot of people said this was actually probably the biggest pushback we got is like, this is BS. If I'm buying a B75 and it's a 75, don't freaking call it an 82. That's misleading. That's just marketing BS.
Well, it's not 75 anyways.
That's really important. I think a lot of the people didn't understand that initially this boat has always been just under 78 feet.
Yes.
So if you're going to talk misleading, it was already misleading to begin with. The model was called bearing 75. The boat overall, if you look at the specs, is just under 78 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So it was already not following that. So all that has happened is the model name got renamed. The boat hasn't changed at all.
Yep.
It's already built.
Correct.
Okay, so let's just make that clear, right? So everybody
Yes.
understands. So the model got renamed. It is 70. LOA is 78 feet. Let's call it 78. What is it exactly?
77.
77
and
something,
some, yeah.
So that was always a constant. That didn't change. The only thing that changed is the model name. So now, how does this... also, it is very common in this industry. It is not an uncommon practice that the model name doesn't necessarily follow the LOA. And it goes both ways.
Correct.
Talk
yes.
about that.
Yes. There are plenty of boat builders. They're either, well, understating the actual length of the vessel. And then it depends also, a lot of times you have a boat which is LOA, let's say 60 feet. The actual structural part of the boat might just be 54 feet. And then you have a mounted on swim platform, which is not part of the structure. So, it gets a little confusing.
But don't confuse people right now. We just talk about LOA, because LOA is LOA.
LOA, if you have a bolt on swim platform, but it's permanently on there, it's still part of the LOA, but it's not part of the hull.
So I think this is where the major confusion lies. So maybe it would be best we break it down by cost factors and then come back and you guys will naturally understand how it actually affected us and why the other brand manufacturers do it certain ways, right? So let's talk about dockage, because that was the biggest thing. Like, oh, good for you guys. Now you're going to be paying for an 82-footer instead of 75-footer. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that first.
Okay. In terms of dockage, like any marina, I'm not going to say in the world, but any marina I know and I have been to, we always go by what's on your registration. So whatever is on your paperwork, that's what you get charged by. So no matter if your 80-foot vessel is called a 180, you're not going to be paying for 180 feet. You're going to be paying what's on your registration, on your flag registration, Coast Guard registration, wherever you are in the world. So that is the most important piece of information. That's what you're paying for.
And that will depend on where your registration is coming from. So certain countries will do it by a full LOA. and certain countries like US, sometimes the Coast Guard, when the registration comes out, it's actually not based on LOA, it's based on what Rico is talking about.
Yes.
So sometimes it will be only what's a structural part. So for example, we lived on a 47 LOA
vessel
boat, but technically on paper, actually the model was 408, the model was 42 feet. But on our paperwork, on our actual paperwork, it was 39 feet, 39 something.
Yeah, which is kind of
on
weird.
the Coast Guard. So it was weird because some of the marinas were like, well, you guys are 42 foot model.
But the marina is not going to charge you for 39 if you're 47. So that it doesn't go both ways.
Correct.
If your registration says 40 feet, but you're actually 48 feet, you're going to be paying in most of the spots for 48 feet because they're going to come out and be like, well, you know, you're hanging over quite a bit. This doesn't work, so you need to pay for your actual length you have.
So
but the other way around, it does work. If my model says I'm a 90, but I'm only 70 feet long, and that's what my paperwork says, I'll be paying for 70 feet, not what the model name is.
So we will be paying for 78
Correct.
feet. That's
Correct.
basically what's going to happen, which is going into any slip. We're probably dealing with an 80-foot slip, so we'll be paying for an 80-foot slip or an 85, depending on what's available.
Yes.
So, or 90. So it just really will not be based on the 82 model.
Yes.
So let's make that clear. But another something to think about when you guys are looking at smaller boats, we've often came to this issue is that marinas have a lot, very common 45-foot slip. 45-foot slip
or 50.
But it's like for example, where we came from, it was.
Well, it's 40.
40, yeah.
40, and then it's a very, very limited amount 45s, and then 50 is another.
So you can hang over.
Supposedly 3 feet.
3 feet.
3 to 4 feet.
So a lot of the times you'll have manufacturers creating boats and naming them 42, 45, but they might be 47. So you have to be careful with that. When you're shopping, the name of the model will be 45. Your swim platform will be, obviously, is not part of your structural, so it will be a little longer, so it will be 48-foot boat. When you're buying a brand new one, make sure you know what the actual real LOA is because you will be paying based on that. You're not going to be able to go into a smaller slip just because your model is a 45. So that's also a marketing thing, and it goes the other way around. So, you know, to make it
another whole aspect of, you know, when people are talking about, oh, this is misleading, you know, like your length is different than your model name. Well, why don't we call it then by the beam, for example? You know, like our boat has the same beam like other manufacturers 90-footers have, or actually bigger than other manufacturers 90-footers are. So again, like it comes down to volume, and there are some manufacturers out there that just go by gross tonnage now. They had the same issue because they created such voluminous boats, models or new models. So they didn't want to be stuck with that length stigma anymore. So they just called it a 200 or a 150. In terms of not footage, it's actually the volume, the gross tonnage.
Yeah.
Which I think is not a bad idea. I kind of like the idea, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know if the market is ready for it, but I think it's a great idea.
Well, in the super yacht world, it's quite more common to talk gross tonnage. That's really what everyone talks about. So some of the builders are already calling it. It's not just one or two. There's more than that. But yeah, in the smaller boats, it's uncommon. But it's also uncommon to have such high volume boats under 24 meters.
True.
So that brings us to the 24 meter regulation and also a captain's license. Let's talk about that. So the LOA of the boat has not changed. It is still under 24 meters. So in the United States, it doesn't matter. Anybody that's
not really
from here, don't worry about the 24 meter thing. That's a more European thing, a Mediterranean thing. So that...
Because in Europe, anything over 24 meters is automatically commercial.
Well, you need a captain's license.
So you need a captain's license for sure, no question. But also your regulations for the boat itself, you're falling under commercial regulations in the European Union.
Well, we're talking about charter right now.
In general, boats under over 24 meters. No.
You can privately own a boat. You just need a captain's license.
Well, yes. That's correct. But if you want to charter, then you're commercial.
Yeah, in the Caribbean and U.S. we don't have that regulation, so it wouldn't really matter for us if that's what we want to charter. But on the grand scheme of things, of this model being changed for anybody who's interested in it, just understand it doesn't change anything for you when it comes to 24-meter regulations. Makes no difference. Captain's license is always, so this is, I felt like, I read all the comments, you guys. I felt like this was the biggest misconception between insurance and captain's license. People were so confused on how insurance is actually approving you based on what. So I'll let Rico start on that, because it's a big subject. It's different in different countries, but overall.
Well, let's talk about U.S., right?
Yes, let's start there.
U.S. has, in different states, different regulations and boaters licenses, which they started, I think, maybe like 5 years ago or something, or maybe 6-7 years ago or something.
California, but other states already
Oregon
had it.
or whatever, like they had it too. I think Florida has a boater's card as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of like phasing in. So if you're old enough, you don't have to have it yet. If you're
this is when the age is actually a benefit. Yeah, you don't have it
but
yet.
let's take this whole boater's card thing out for a second.
Yes.
You do not have to have a captain's license by the government regulations, by the Coast Guard regulations, in order to drive a boat. You obviously have to understand certain rules of the road, but they're just saying, hey, you bought a boat, you should read up on this on your own and you're good to go. You do need to have a valid US driver's license. So whichever state you're in, you need to have that driver's license in order to drive your boat. Insurance, completely separate subject.
Well, no, it's not a separate subject. Just because you buy a boat and you can drive it doesn't mean you'll get a slip anywhere, because you need to have an insurance. You need to have a boat insurance.
Right, liability insurance, for example.
And the boat insurance will not insure you if you feel like you are way underqualified to drive the boat you bought.
Correct. So every time you're buying the boat for the very first time, or for the 5th or 10th time, it doesn't really matter. Your insurance company will always ask for your qualifications, meaning your resume, your experience, what did you have before, how many boats have you captained or skippered in your life, and based on that, they will either say, okay, no problem, we insure you, you can self-drive your boat, here's all your paperwork, submit it to the marina where you're staying in, and everything is good. But they also might say, like, we don't really feel like you have the experience to captain your own boat. We'd like you to get, and that varies, a captain for X amount of time to train you and then sign off that you went through certain tasks. Or they're saying, we want you to have a captain for the first 20 times you're taking the boat out, and then you're good to go. So it really depends on the insurance company, on the underwriter, and what they're regulating, but that is how it works. The bigger the boat, the harder it becomes to get approved by your insurance without a captain's license. Again, it's not a requirement, but the insurance company might say, you know what, this is over 200 gross tons. We want you to have a captain's license in order to captain your own boat.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time when you're going to go over 100 gross tons, you're running into a captain's license.
Or at least an extensive resume.
Yeah, yes, you might, like, really extensive. And I think the biggest issue with the comments I read is that we have European viewers and American viewers trying to educate each other, and this is where the disconnect happens.
Yep.
The 24-meter rules applies to Europe, and in Germany, for example, it's over 20 meters. You need to have a captain's license. So every country has different rules.
I think in Germany you need to have a captain's, or you need to have some sort of boater's license already way before. Because you're not allowed to drive anything in Germany, as far as I know, which is over 6 horsepower.
That's EU, but I'm talking like size-wise, it matters. In US, it doesn't. You can have a 25-meter boat and still drive it without captain's license.
Correct.
As long as your insurance will insure you. And that's the tricky part. And the insurance is not based on the size. And that's where I've read so many comments, people saying, well, now over 80 meters, that's it.
80 meters? 80 feet?
80 feet, that's it. Over 80 feet, the insurance, this is a different insurance. Same insurance, you guys. It is based on your experience and based on your resume. And that's how insurance will insure you.
Yeah.
So for us, what did this change from model 75 to model 82 do?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
No change.
So for anybody who is interested in this model in Europe, it did absolutely nothing because it's still under 24 meters by regulation.
That's correct.
So just trying to break it down a little bit. And with insurance, it's been harder and harder, obviously, because the hurricanes and everything has been going on. Insurance companies are either out of business or really stretched.
Not just insurance companies pulled out of their marine world.
They're getting very strict. So I would say if you are looking into anything under 45 feet with very little experience, you're probably going to be okay, as long as you got some experience. Under 35 feet probably will get insured, no issue. But anything over 45 feet, you need to have experience. And as you go up to the 90 footers, that gets tricky. One more thing to consider in insurance is not just the experience and the size, is also the gross tonnage, because insurance will look at that. And so, for example, with our boat, you might have owned an 82 foot boat, which was
whatever, 120
gross tons, which is quite common. And then now, you're gonna own this boat, model 82, and it's 174 gross tons. There's a pretty good chance your insurance company is gonna say you are underqualified to drive this boat.
Or they're just barely saying yes. The thing is, when we get over 200 gross tons, then the likelihood that the insurance company is going to say, like, you need to have a captain's license is probably above 90%.
Yeah. So, or you need to have a captain.
Or captain,
driving your boat. Yeah, exactly. So I think you're right. Over 200 ton is where it gets very different, and insurance gets very, very strict.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what else? Let's see. Some other things were.
Well, running cost in general. I think there were some comments where people say, "Oh, you're going to pay so much more now for washdowns or for dive service," or no, it's the same length. Nothing changed.
Nothing changed. So we'll still, but that's the thing. For a diver, for example, it's per foot. If you're not self-diving your boat, if you have a professional
I mean, you might have to
service.
fight with the diver a little bit, because they look at it and it says, like, oh, it says 82 up there. But yeah, it's not. And you got to actually, prove them that you should pay a little bit less.
Well, you have your paperwork, what
Yes.
the LOA is, and you are paying per foot of the LOA.
Yes.
So they're going to charge you. And so even though our boat was B75, when it comes to dockage, when it comes to diver or washdowns, if we're not going to do it ourselves, we would always be paying on the 78, It's not even 77, right? Because it's a little more.
Maybe the whole industry should just get away from these numbers and just call it a name, each model.
What's a name?
Like a name, like
Yeah,
not
but
like
how do you get
not like a
charged for
number.
services? You get paid
No,
per foot.
you still have that obviously in your registration, but instead of having everywhere the names on there, I mean the number on there, like maybe it should just be Mercedes doesn't say, it's a 12 and it's a 14 and it's a whatever. Like no, it's a A class, B class, C class, E class, S class, whatever.
Yeah, but you don't pay for parking per foot,
No.
so you don't pay for washing your boat per foot.
But it doesn't, maybe it's not good to have the number on the side.
I don't know. So there you guys have it. That's our 2 or maybe 4 cents, 2 and 2 put together.
Yeah.
Just to give you some understanding and idea. If some of it is still not clear, or if you feel like we didn't answer everything, put it in the comments. We are happy to dive in some, later time. Obviously, we want to give you guys updates from the shipyard, and that's coming now. We just wanted to take a moment and address this while this was still kind of raw and fresh, and everybody remembered, because I just felt like there was just so much confusion about this.
Got another idea.
Oh boy.
And why don't we do this just the square foot or square meters of a vessel?
Is your microphone on?
Yeah.
Oh.
Square foot or square
thank
meters
gosh.
of a vessel. Length by beam. And that number everybody should talk about.
Square foot.
Yeah, instead of volume, like square foot, people can wrap their head around a little bit easier than
guess.
volume,
Okay.
you know? So I think if you do that, you still acknowledge the length and the beam of a boat.
Yeah.
And that number would be probably pretty interesting.
What do you guys think?
Well,
Put in the comments.
Maybe I'm up to something new.
What are your ideas about this, and also what other questions you would like us to address? We dive in pretty deep on some of these subjects in the Patreon, so if you're interested in learning more about liveaboard, join us there. What else is cool new stuff coming? We have a bunch of updates coming from the shipyard, so that's going to be your next few things. For those of you who are threatening to unsubscribe, so scared, because you're not seeing updates from the shipyard, they are coming. So have patience. Obviously, we're only going to shipyard once every couple months.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have updates every week to give you, and we give you everything we can. But yes.
Yeah, but it's moving fast.
Yeah,
it's moving
no, it's
pretty
progressing.
freaking fast.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyways.
All right.
Enjoy the rest of the Sunday.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.